Sometimes the most unsettling feeling is not stress, it is calm. You have the evening to yourself. No one needs an answer right now. There is no deadline in the next hour, no emergency, no one waiting for you to fix something. For once, nothing is pressing on you, and instead of feeling free, you feel strangely flat. You sit there with time in front of you. You could rest, slow down, maybe even enjoy the quiet. But your mind does not feel peaceful. It feels loose, unfocused, almost too quiet. Life has become easier, but somehow it feels less real. Then something changes. A message comes in. A deadline moves closer. A problem appears. A difficult conversation can no longer be avoided. Suddenly, something is at stake, and almost immediately, something inside you shifts. Your body becomes alert, your attention sharpens, and your mind stops drifting. You know what has to be done, you know what matters now, and there may even be a strange sense of relief. Not because pressure feels good, but because it gives you something the quiet never did. A role, a direction, a consequence, a reason to fully arrive. That is the confusing part. Pressure can exhaust you. It can make you tense. It can make life feel like one emergency after another. And yet, sometimes it also makes you feel more awake than peace does. So the question is not simply, why do I feel stressed? The deeper question is, why do I only feel real when something is at stake? It is not because you need suffering, and it is not because stress is secretly good for you. Maybe the real issue is something else. You may not be addicted to pressure. You may be starved for meaningful difficulty. Pressure has a strange power. It has a way of making life feel clearer. When there is no pressure, everything begins to spread out. You think about 10 different options. You wonder whether the task even matters, or tell yourself there is always time later. You open a document, close it again, check your phone, and somehow convince yourself that you are still getting ready. Then the deadline moves closer. Almost without noticing, the fog begins to lift. You know what needs to be done. You know what can wait. You know where your attention belongs. Pressure narrows the world, not always in a healthy way, but often in a powerful one. That is one reason pressure can make you feel alive. When something is at stake, you are no longer drifting outside your own life. You are inside it. There is something that needs doing, something that depends on you, something asking you to show up. That can feel frightening, but it can also feel strangely honest. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi found that people enter a state of deep engagement when a challenge matches their abilities closely enough to demand their full attention, without pushing them into overwhelm. It is difficult enough to require their best, but not so difficult that it breaks them. In that space, attention deepens, the mind becomes fully engaged, and people stop thinking about themselves because they are completely absorbed in what they are doing. That does not mean every deadline is healthy. It does not mean panic is the same as focus. And it certainly does not mean you should keep your life unstable just to feel awake. But it does explain something important. A task that is too easy does not ask enough of you. A task that is too chaotic can overwhelm you. But a challenge that is meaningfully difficult has a way of pulling you back into the present. It reminds you what you are capable of. That is why pressure can be so tempting. It clears away the fog and gives your strength somewhere to go. For a while, you no longer have to wonder whether you are really living. The moment gives you something real to meet. But this is where the idea becomes dangerous, because once pressure starts making you feel awake, it becomes easy to blame the quiet. Peace begins to feel unfamiliar. A calm day can leave you feeling guilty. Rest starts looking like laziness. And when no one needs anything from you, you begin looking for something that does. Maybe you check your email, even though nothing is waiting. You invent another task. You find another problem to solve. Free time quietly turns into another project. But rest is not the problem. Rest matters. Recovery matters. Quiet matters. A life without pauses does not become more alive. It simply becomes more reactive. So the real question is not whether rest is wrong. It is why rest can sometimes feel so empty. There is an important difference between healthy rest and a life that no longer asks anything meaningful of you. Healthy rest restores you. It gives your mind and body a chance to recover. Under-challenge is something else. It is when your days stop asking for your courage, your attention, your honesty, or your ability. It is when nothing important is asking you to grow. You can stay busy all day and still be under-challenged. You answer messages, finish tasks, attend meetings, yet none of it asks for your real participation. That is not the same as rest. It is simply being occupied without feeling involved. That is why life can feel strangely flat even after it becomes easier. Not because you are useless. Something much quieter is happening. You feel unused. Being useless would mean you have no value. Feeling unused is different. It means something valuable in you has nowhere meaningful to go. Your attention has nowhere to land. Your ability has nothing real to meet. Your courage is no longer being asked for. So when pressure finally arrives, it does more than create stress. It creates contact. Suddenly, some part of you is back in the room. A lot of people say, "I work better under pressure." Sometimes that is true, but it is not the whole story. Maybe you do not work better under pressure. Maybe you simply begin when the pressure becomes strong enough to take the decision away. The deadline decides. The emergency decides. All at once, the endless question of, "Should I do this?" disappears. The only question left is, what needs to happen now? There is something strangely comforting about that. For a while, life feels simpler, and because everything becomes clearer, it can also feel more alive. That is why calling it an addiction to stress can miss the point. A better question is this: what does pressure give you that ordinary life does not? Does it give you focus, a clear direction, a reason to act? Does it make your effort feel necessary instead of optional? Psychologists have found that people do not thrive on comfort alone. We also need a sense of choice, a sense that our abilities matter, and a connection to something we genuinely care about. In simple terms, we need to feel that we are choosing, that what we can do actually matters, and that our effort belongs somewhere meaningful. Pressure can imitate all of that. It gives you a role, a task, a deadline. For a little while, it can even make your abilities feel indispensable. But there is one difference that changes everything. A meaningful life is built around challenges you choose. A crisis chooses for you. That may be the real turning point. Perhaps you are not addicted to pressure. Perhaps you have been missing a different kind of difficulty, one that still leaves room for freedom, difficult enough to deserve your full attention, real enough to carry consequences, and deeply connected to something you truly value. That kind of challenge does not make you feel alive because it frightens you. It makes you feel alive because it asks something of you. It reminds you that you are not standing outside your life, watching it happen. You are living it. But not every kind of pressure deserves to be called meaningful. This is where people often get hurt, because once you discover that difficulty can make you feel alive, it becomes surprisingly easy to mistake intensity for meaning. Overwork starts sounding like ambition. Emotional chaos gets mistaken for passion. Burnout begins to look like discipline. Constant anxiety is renamed growth, and survival is quietly celebrated as strength. Intensity is easy to mistake for meaning. Something can feel powerful and still be harmful. It can fill you with urgency while quietly making your life smaller. And it can ask everything from you without ever deserving what it costs you. Researchers who study workplace stress often make an important distinction. Some demands are challenges. They stretch your abilities. They ask more of you, but they also help you learn, grow, and move towards something that matters. Other demands are obstacles. They drain your energy. They reduce your sense of choice. They leave you feeling trapped. Instead of helping you grow, they simply teach you how to survive. Over time, the difference becomes impossible to ignore. A meaningful challenge may frighten you, but it also gives you direction. Destructive pressure keeps you alert, without making you feel alive. It teaches your body that rest is unsafe, that calm cannot be trusted, that if nothing seems wrong, something soon will be. A difficult conversation can be meaningful if it brings you closer to the truth, but constant relationship drama is not depth. A demanding project can strengthen you when it develops your abilities, but a workplace that keeps you living in permanent chaos is not a calling. Some kinds of pressure ask something of you. Others simply take something from you. And if you cannot tell the difference, you may spend years chasing the very thing that is slowly wearing you down. There is one more reason pressure can be so hard to let go of. Urgency can feel like meaning. When life finally becomes quiet, something else begins. You are left with questions only you can answer. What do I actually want? What kind of life am I building? What still matters when no one is telling me what to do? And if fear were no longer deciding for me, what would I choose? Those questions are difficult, not because they are impossible, because they ask for ownership. Urgency never asks that of you. It gives you a direction before you have to choose one yourself. A deadline tells you what matters. A relationship in crisis gives you something to fix. A problem gives your attention somewhere to go. And when everything feels urgent, you rarely have time to ask what you are living for. That is why urgency can feel meaningful, not because every urgent thing matters, but because urgency gives you direction. It gives you a role. For a while, it even gives you an identity. Ernest Hemingway admired what he called grace under pressure. There is real dignity in staying steady when life becomes difficult. There is real courage in meeting a hard moment without falling apart. But that is very different from needing pressure just to feel alive. That difference changes everything. One kind of pressure calls for your courage. The other quietly becomes your identity. There is dignity in facing a hard season. There is danger in believing you can only recognize yourself inside one. That is when pressure stops being something you face and slowly becomes something you depend on. Stabilize begins to feel dull. Peace feels unfamiliar. Ease becomes uncomfortable, and before long, you find yourself drawn to people, jobs, and situations that always keep you close to the edge. Not because they are good for you, because they make you feel awake. Urgency can give your life a direction, but if urgency is always choosing your direction, then you are no longer choosing your life. So perhaps the real question is not what feels urgent, it is what is truly worth choosing, even when nothing is forcing me. So perhaps the better question is not, is this difficult? Many things are. A toxic relationship can ask a great deal from you. So can a meaningful commitment. Burnout can leave you exhausted. Learning a new skill can leave you humbled. Fear can keep you constantly alert. Telling the truth may cost you your comfort. Difficulty by itself proves nothing. A better question is, what is this difficulty doing to me? Some challenges leave you tired, but clearer. Others leave you tense, smaller, and less able to choose. Some bring you closer to honesty. Others quietly teach you to betray yourself just to keep going. Some ask for courage. Others keep you afraid and call it growth. The difference is not always obvious. Meaningful challenges can still hurt. They can make you nervous. They can expose your limits. They ask you to practice, to fail, to apologize, to learn, and to begin again. But when you come through them, you usually feel more present, not because they were easy, because they brought you back into contact with yourself. Destructive pressure feels different. It may keep you alert without making you free. It may keep you busy without making you whole. It may fill your life with intensity while quietly taking away your ability to choose. A meaningful challenge leaves room for recovery. Destructive pressure keeps moving the finish line. A meaningful challenge asks you to use your strength. Destructive pressure teaches you to live from fear. A meaningful challenge calls you into your life. Destructive pressure pulls you deeper into survival. So perhaps ask yourself, when this is over, who will I be? More present or less? More honest? More capable? More awake? Or just more exhausted? Because the real question is not whether something is hard, it is whether this difficulty is helping you become someone you actually want to be. The answer is not to make your life harder. You do not need more suffering, more chaos, or another chance to prove how much you can endure. The wiser answer is not more pressure. It is a challenge you choose before life chooses one for you. That kind of challenge feels very different from an emergency. An emergency takes control. A meaningful challenge asks you to step forward. An emergency takes your choices away. A meaningful challenge gives your freedom somewhere worthwhile to go. One keeps you reacting, the other helps you commit. It might be a creative project you keep postponing because it could fail. It might be an honest conversation whose outcome you cannot control. Or it might be a skill, a practice, or a commitment that stretches you without breaking you. The goal is not to become impressive. It is to stop waiting for crisis to make life feel real. Because if you only feel alive when everything becomes urgent, then urgency has started deciding how you live. Start smaller than your ego wants, but start honestly. A meaningful challenge does not have to change your whole life. It only has to ask something real of you. Your attention when looking away would be easier, your patience when progress feels painfully slow, your courage when something important is at stake, and your honesty when the truth would be easier to avoid. But meaningful difficulty also has boundaries. It leaves room to recover, room to choose again, and room to stay connected to something you genuinely care about. Take those things away, and it is no longer meaningful difficulty. It is only pressure wearing a better disguise. So perhaps do not ask, what is difficult? Ask instead, what is worth struggling for? What kind of challenge would help you become more present? What commitment would ask for your strength without asking you to give up your freedom? You were never meant to live from one emergency to the next. Life does not have to keep frightening you before it feels real. But neither were you meant for a life that asks nothing of you. Something in all of us wants to be used, not by every crisis, by something that is truly worth our effort, something that asks for our attention, our patience, our courage, and quietly leaves us more ourselves than before. That is the difference. The right kind of difficulty does not consume your life. It gives your life a direction. So perhaps the question is no longer, how do I find more pressure? Perhaps it is, what is worth showing up for, even when nothing is forcing me? Pressure can wake you up, but it cannot tell you what deserves your attention. It cannot tell you what deserves your commitment. Only you can choose that. The goal was never to escape difficulty, and it was never to chase it. It was to find something meaningful enough to ask for your full presence, without asking you to lose yourself. Because in the end, a meaningful life is not built by surviving one crisis after another. It is built by choosing, again and again, what is worthy of your attention, your effort, and your life.